Hey, how's it going? It's been a very long time since I've had a Shadowverse video on my channel. So the special Grand Prix tournament event just ended recently, and I ended up making it to the finals. So I wanted to make a video reviewing over my matches in the finals. So ultimately, the Grand Prix event had a lot of problems with it. The main problem being the way the final stage was handled. It being sudden death is really stupid. And I know a lot of people aren't happy with it, especially since things like cosmetic rewards were locked behind, getting at least one win, stuff like that. But anyway, talking about my experience in the Grand Prix. In the first stage, I ended up qualifying um, with White Wolf Elephant Forest, which is this deck. A really cool deck. Really fun to play. In my opinion, the most fun to play deck in the current meta. I ended up qualifying with this in the first stage, getting to Group A, getting the 4-1 score. And then I also ended up playing Mid-Range Shadow, which got me another 4 wins, but this was after I already qualified in, the first stage. Just this really standard fast mid-range list. And then in the second stage, Group A, I had a lot more difficulty. I kept getting 3 wins, and it just, could not break 4 wins until the very last day that was possible to qualify. And I ended up qualifying with a really standard Earth Rune deck. This deck, nothing really special here. Very standard list. So then, now that I got into the final stage, now the question was, which deck was I going to pick, and try to guess what kind of meta I was going to run into. So, I really hate high roll decks, and I hate decks that are terrible if you don't draw in the right order, or they have a tendency to brick. And so that basically led me to narrow it down to 2 choices. Personally, I really like Elephant Forest. The problem with Elephant Forest is that it doesn't brick, but if the opponent high rolls you, then sometimes you just get destroyed. There's nothing you can do about it. So I wanted a consistent deck that could sometimes get really good openings and could rush the opponent down, just so that you don't get high rolled. So that led me down to narrow it between Mid-Range Shadow or Earthright Rune. And so I ended up picking Earthright Rune for the final stage, just because, well, 2 reasons. Number 1, Rune's my main class, but then number 2, it's also the deck that I'm more familiar with. I think I have more games played with this deck than the Shadow deck. But yeah, those were the decks that I used during the qualification phases. I also considered using Haven, Temple Haven, but the matchup against Darias is really bad. Although, interestingly enough, during the first 2 stages, I didn't really see that much Darias. It was actually mostly neutral forest. So I ended up going with this deck. So like I said earlier, really standard Burn Root deck. Spell selection, we got 3 Piercing Runes, 2 Chain Lightnings, and 2 Bolts, and 2 Grand Summonings. There's definitely some matchups where I would much prefer having 3 Bolts instead of 2, but I do think that in a general sense for this deck, having a 2-2 split of Bolt and Summoning is correct. So yeah. And then about the Magic Illusionist, this card was nerfed after the end of the first month of Chronogenesis. It now has 1 health. So this used to be an instant 3 of in every Earthrune deck, but nerfed to 1 health actually makes a huge difference. Because of that, this card's now a huge liability in certain matchups, like against Shadow, Sword, and Forest. Especially Forest. Like if you're playing against a Forest, you have a Illusionist, and if they ever draw Wood of Brambles, then you just instantly lose the game. So yeah, this card can actually mess you up now, so that's why he's now a 2 of. And since he's a 2 of instead of a 3 of, we need more early game cards, so now there's Lyriel as an additional 2-drop. And this card, Mage of Nightfall, I really don't like this card. Honestly, I greatly dislike this card. But I do think she's kind of a necessity for this deck, because ever since Chronogenesis came out, the deck now has kind of an issue in filling up your board with sigils and being unable to consume them. Because number one, you got Carl, which creates 2 bodies on the board, right? You got Carl and the sigil. And then you also have Silent Laboratory, which again creates a 2/2 body and a sigil. So if you just draw all these Earth Sigil generators and no Earthrites, then you will very quickly find out that you have no cards left to play because your board is full. So she's played out of necessity. Not because I like this card, because I really don't like this card. But yeah, pretty standard list, nothing really special about it. That's the deck I chose for the final stage. Okay, first match, Runecraft.
Time to shine,
Went
Darias.
first. That's good for me.
Dimension.
So we keep the Sigil and 1 Alchemist. If we draw... oh wow, double Sigil. That's a really, really good draw. Illusionists can be really bad in this matchup if you drop them naked. And if this is Daria, then Magic Missile kills him. But since we just drew Illusionist, we can back him up with a bunch of Sigils here. So we drop the Telescope first. Looks like it's Daria. Turn 1 Insight, going second. We play the Illusionist here, of course. Even if he has Magic Missile, he'll come back to life. Yep.
Don't hold the applause.
Best draw here would be the Carl. We didn't get Carl, so now we play Dwarf Alchemist to a 1-cost Sigil. There was actually some consideration over playing the Telescope instead of the regular Essence there. Alright, played it. The reason why is because we drew the second Illusionist. So yeah, that was a problem. See, normally if I had played the Telescope first, then I could have 2 Sigils backing up 2 Illusionists. But now if I play the Telescope, it cycles, and I still have 1 Sigil. So we're gonna save the Telescope, and we're just gonna play the Illusionist. Everything else goes face. Since we have a Sigil, there's a very, very good chance that we'll have at least one thing survive for next turn. His best play here is evolve the Owl into Piercing Rune. He's got the Owl. Knowledge. Double knowledge. Wow. So he didn't have the Piercing Rune, but that was still a really disgusting turn. Like, wow, look at that. No Daria, but that was an insane amount of stats. Anyways, we're at 20, opponent's at 14, we have a Sigil, we drew a Carl, which gives us another Sigil. So at this point, we just don't worry about the board anymore. We still have to kill we have an easy way to kill the Owl. But yeah, the play here, we're going to erase him since we also have 3 damage in hand. The play here is to evolve one of the Illusionists, go face, Piercing Rune the 4/2, then play Carl to give more Sigils, so that our Illusionists are basically immortal.
Holy magic is safe. Gaze into the light.
You ready for the good stuff?
Figure out my tricks yet?
This puts him at 6, I think?
Ouch.
Yeah, 6. Alright, so again, 2 Illusionists, 2 Sigils. Almost guaranteed to have something survive next turn.
Come gather round.
Knowledge. Circle. Wow.
Going beyond dimension.
It's playing the greedy version with Flame Destroyers. Well, that is,
Come gather round.
so he can clear everything except for 1. That is really, really scary. So this turn, he has 11, 14, 17 damage on board. I have to kill 1 thing. And if I kill the 2/2, then he has 15 damage on board. with 15 damage, if he has 4 damage in hand, then I'm dead, which is not hard at all for Daria to get, right? If he has like some combination of Blade Mages, then I will die. So now the question is, how can we do as much damage as possible to face, while at the same time taking away power from his board? This Chain Lightning is going face guaranteed, because that means I win in 2 turns, and Daria doesn't typically run healing. So, the play here, we're first going to play the Telescope and suicide the Illusionist into the 2/2. That takes care of his Golem. Our Illusionist will respawn, but when it respawns, it's a new follower. So I will be allowed to re-evolve the Illusionist. Then I can kill a Ogler that way. So that way he only has 12 on the board, 14 with an evolve. And so that means he needs 5 damage out of hand to kill me. Which is still very, very possible, right? But he needs a couple of cards. Like, he needs, like, multiple Blade Mages, maybe even a Enchanted Sword to do that. So yeah, we're gonna play the Telescope first. Suicide. Evolve it.
Come gather round.
Going beyond dimension.
Another good thing about this play is that it leaves my board empty.
Figure out
So that
my
means
tricks yet.
it doesn't even give him a piercing rune target.
With a bang.
Daria. So this guy had an insane high roll start, but I drew the perfect anti-Daria hand
Your time, girl.
with Illusionists and all the sigils.
Your lifeblood.
Blade.
Ouch. Ow.
Alright, that's a win.
Woo! You got the stuff. Time to shine, Daria.
Runecraft again.
What a cool dimension.
Alright, pretty easy mulligan. Toss out Chain Lightning. Which looks amazing animated, by the way. If we draw Illusionist, I'm gonna play the Telescope. Alright, we're not playing it. That's a good draw. Gives us a nice 2-3 curve. It's a mirror match. He has the best possible turn 1, which is Cauldron. So we actually have a choice that turn of playing either the Dwarf Alchemist or the Laboratory. Generally, if going first, it's better to play the Dwarf Alchemist, because if you're going second, then you can use this for the evolve effect to cycle your deck. The other reason I went for Alchemist over Laboratory is because we also have Carl. So if we instead played Laboratory and then Carl the next turn, our board would be almost full. We'd because both of those cards spawn what is that, sigils? So that's why I went with Alchemist, because this deck does sometimes have that problem of filling up your board with sigils, sometimes not having a way of eating them. Yeah, and I haven't drawn any Earthright cards yet. It's kind of unfortunate,
Gaze
except for the
into
Telescope.
light.
So that's a cycle. So we go face here since we're going first. We're ahead on board.
Only magic is
Wow, we're both drawing really well, I noticed.
gaze into the light.
Wow, no trade. That was definitely a mistake. Yeah, I'm not sure what he was thinking there. That was not the right play. So, since we don't have any Earthrights, and we didn't put down any Illusionists, then it's okay to use the Telescope to cycle. So we're gonna cycle first. Depending on what we draw, another Oz.
Gaze into the light.
Okay, so then we're just gonna get the value trade with the Carl on the Golem, go face with the Dwarf, the Laboratory to heal again. Pretty easy play here.
Gaze into the light.
Value trade, face.
You ready for the good stuff?
He must have a piercing rune.
The
That's a
heart
very aggressive play.
must be kept pure.
Are you
Best play is 2 piercing runes.
come
Didn't have the
gather
second one.
round.
Ouch.
Okay. So now we draw our own Illusionist. couple different plays we could do here. We could snipe the Illusionist with the Lyrial, but then by doing that we aren't able to kill the Evolve Carl without throwing away a lot of resources. So actually, the best, most aggressive play, since we are slightly ahead on board, is to Suicide Evolve the Lyrial into the Carl, send everything else face, and then play the Illusionist. That way, that makes our Illusionist backed up by 2 sigils, so it's very unlikely they can kill it, and then we're just really ahead on board. And then, if things get too crazy, I do have Oz into Mutabolt, or just raw Mutabolt. So yeah, Lyrial, Suicide Evolve.
You ready for the good stuff? My wings are killing me.
Are you
Then Illusionist.
Come gather round.
If he evolves face here, I can punish him with a bolt. Alright, he's gonna go the defensive play. What?
Don't hold the applause.
That
Gather
was
round.
definitely a misplay by my opponent. There's no reason to kill this right now. Because it's coming back, right? I have 2 sigils. He should have killed either the Alchemist or the Golem. Preferably the Golem to take away the most damage. Oh my god, that top deck. Yeah, so this is just easy, right? We just play Levi, evolve the Golem to maximize damage, go face. Yeah, we do that because if we evolve the Golem, it has 4 life. So it does dodge his own Levy if he has it.
Levi, don't forget.
Evolve the Golem.
Hold the applause. Come gather round.
He's at 2 life.
Beyond dimension.
Whoa!
It's very unlikely he can clear my board. But even if he does, I got Bolt.
The
And he's
name's
got his own
Levi,
Levy.
Don't forget.
Now he's forced to evolve to stay alive and trade.
Daria, it's your time, girl.
Here's what
Just like
real
that.
magic looks like.
He's got 2 followers left over,
Come gather round.
so now Bolt is exactly full.
Slipped up.
Okay, sure. I'll let you have this one.
Another Runecraft.
Time to shine, Daria. I guess you're looking for a fight.
Alright, well, we're going second this time. If it's Daria, it's actually a good thing. Them going first means they have a higher chance of bricking. We just keep the Cauldron, because that's the best turn 1. Okay, no 2-drop. Kind of problematic. But we have 3 chances to draw it, so it's not too bad. Wow. Well, 1 more chance to draw a 2-drop. It's Daria. Hey, perfect. Alright. Alchemist. Well, that's awkward. We can't deal with that. So we just play Carl.
Magic is safe.
The Halo Golem is a very, very good pickup, though.
The light.
Second Golem. Okay. He takes the value trade.
Are you
Very smart.
defying me?
See, now I wish I kept the Piercing Rune. Like, a Laboratory Evolved Piercing Rune would have been really sick here, but sadly we didn't take that. So, yeah, the play is just take the 2 for 1 with the Halo Golem. And then push 2 to face there. This leaves us 2 bodies on the board.
Ready for the good stuff? No!
Best play here is 3-drop Evolve Piercing Rune. Chimera, played for 4. Okay. That's actually
Done for.
kind of awkward. don't have a clean way of dealing with that. Yeah, so Oz is not happening for sure. We could play Halo Golem and blast him for 3, but then the thing is, if we evolve, it's a suicide evolve. I don't think it's worth it. So instead we do Silent Laboratory Suicide Evolve, which is not great, but better. And then we play the Earth Sigil. And I can save the Halo Golem for later if I need it.
Going beyond dimensions.
Whoa!
Missile. Wow, okay. It's a really weak play. A lot of different plays we could do here. We could Halo Golem this, and then play the Alchemist. So, but I do think the highest pressure and the highest tempo turn is to play the Grand Summoning. So, this is where I think I could have made a misplay, because I know that in this game, what I did was I evolved the 1-2 to kill the 3-3, because this is Daria, right? And since all of his plays have been really slow so far, I just wanted to be as ahead on the board as possible. So I evolved the 1-2 and killed the 3-3. But the 3-3 is not really that threatening, and right now I have 19 life, so there's actually some consideration towards not evolving, and you guys will see why it might have been a better idea not to evolve here, but I'm not too sure. Anyway, I did evolve the 1-2 just to be ahead, but I think that may have been a misplay there. One of the other reasons I did that is because I know I Bolt, so that if he Darias me, then I have an answer to a big board. Missile, good answer. Piercing Rune. Ogler. Daria. Yeah. Well, we got the answer to this board, luckily. Another Ogler.
Atone with your lifeblood.
It won't be long
Okay.
now.
That's really, really scary. But we have an answer. We even drew another spell, so that's good. So a pretty easy play here. Play Wizardess, and then 2 spells. So the thing is, right now, I'm behind in life. I have 15, my opponent's at 18. If we were close to killing the opponent, then the order of the spells changes. What we want to do is do Oz, then Piercing Rune first, and then Mutagenic Bolt. That maximizes the damage. But since I'm behind on board right now, and I'm also losing in the life battle, we're going to do Bolt first, and then Piercing Rune. Just take off as much power as possible.
I am a fiction and a falsehood.
Rolls the missile. It's really lucky, actually. Wow, he's even playing Mystic Ring. He's playing the bad version of Daria. He actually misplayed. He should have played Mystic Ring
Death
first.
is another fiction.
Yeah, that was not the right order.
Ouch. Ouch.
So lucky. So yeah, as you can see, I lost this game. There's no way I can come back from this. But this is why I said that evolving earlier was probably the misplay. Because if you can imagine, if I didn't evolve, then that means this turn I could play Halo Golem, kill the rat, evolve, kill the 4-4, and I could still try to extend the game. But the problem is, if I had not evolved that turn, then there's a good chance this 3-3 would have survived and hit face. And so that means going on to this turn, instead of being at 6 life, you know, maybe I'd be at 3 life. And I'd still be in really bad shape because these rats will just kill me next turn. So, in the end, I'm not really too sure if that was a misplay Maybe there's just no way. There's no way I could have won this game. But yeah, it's hard to say. But yeah, that's a loss right there. Basically, right now, I play Oz. The only card that can save me is Grand Summoning, which I don't get. Technically, Grand Summoning doesn't even save me, it just delays the inevitable. But I was trying to find something.